Hello everyone and welcome to your Advective weather update for April 25th, 2023. We have a lot going on, so let's start with current conditions. A low pressure system there in Canada bringing showers there in the states of Ohio up through Michigan, parts of New York and the Northeast. We have thunderstorms popping up in Florida. A few of those are going to be severe today, and we also have some severe storms already popping up in New Mexico and Colorado. More widespread severe weather expected later today, heading into tomorrow. A flooding risk also in place through much of the south central, southeastern United States. We'll talk more about that soon. And finally, this is the only time we'll mention it in the video, but there are some winter storm warnings in place there in the Rockies, including around the Denver metropolitan area. So that is definitely something that we want to keep an eye on as well, as we do continue through this more active period of weather over the next 3 days or so. Let's go over the next 3 days in some detail here. You can see those critical fire weather conditions expected there in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, with severe storms there in Texas and extreme southwestern Oklahoma, and then we also have from around Denver through Oklahoma City near Tulsa, Oklahoma, the possibility of some flash flooding concerns today. Tomorrow, that shifts there to the east just a tad with Oklahoma City, the Kansas-Oklahoma border around Wichita, stretching through Little Rock, Memphis, Tennessee, all in a flooding risk and a severe risk, which is primarily centered around the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. And then 3 days out, things do quiet down, but widespread thunderstorms do remain, stretching all the way from North Dakota to around Florida. So let's talk about the severe threat in a bit more detail now. A slight risk in place today in Texas and extreme southwestern Oklahoma, with all hazards, that being strong winds, large hail, and tornadoes possible. There's a marginal risk for strong winds and large hail in the state of Florida, with an enhanced risk of severe storms there in the state of Texas tomorrow, and a slight risk of severe storms tomorrow in the state of Florida, and finally a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms in the southern Gulf states on Thursday, that being Dixie Alley, including places like New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi, Tupelo, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida. Let's talk about today in a bit more detail. Severe storms are already initiating in areas both in the Florida risk and the Texas risk, but we're going to be having severe storms really firing up across Texas, and they'll likely last until 4 a.m., decreasing in intensity with time after sunset. Multiple rounds of strong to severe storms are expected there in northern Texas, in the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles in particular, that including Amarillo, which will last throughout the entirety of the forecast period. That being up until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, when we'll continue to see strong storms. More details soon. Strong winds of 60 miles per hour, large hail to very large hail over 2 inches in diameter, and a few tornadoes are possible today, with isolated severe thunderstorms again already occurring in the state of Florida this afternoon. Let's break this down in a bit more detail. In the Black Hatched region, that includes San Angelo, Texas, that's where we can expect the possibility of large to very large hail, that again over 2 inches in diameter, with scattered large hail expected in the yellow region from Amarillo to Houston, and isolated large hail from Pueblo to San Antonio, Corpus Christi, and Houston. They're in the state of Texas, heading off the Gulf Coast, with isolated large hail also possible there in central to eastern Florida. Let's talk about the forecast tomorrow for tornadoes. No tornado risk in Florida. However, we do have a tornado risk, including San Angelo, for a slight risk. That's a level 2 out of 5. 5 to 9% chance of a tornado occurring within 25 miles. So isolated tornadoes possible there, and then maybe 1 or 2 occurring within the entirety of the green region there, that being the marginal risk for tornadoes. When it comes to wind, we have a marginal risk for wind both in Florida and in Texas, stretching all the way up into Colorado. So isolated strong winds are possible as well. But again, today the primary threat in Texas being large hail and maybe a few tornadoes there around the San Angelo metro and points north. Let's talk about this in terms of weather models. You'll notice there are storms firing in the northern and southern modes. We have pretty high confidence in this kind of solution occurring. Not exactly like this, but isolated to scattered storms throughout this region. However, we're not as confident in severe storms kind of merging into that line that this model has through the Dallas-Fort Worth region, although that line there farther north heading into Oklahoma, that one is more confident in terms of how likely we think it is to occur. Let's talk about tomorrow now. Again, Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. You guys are in an enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms driven by strong wind primarily. However, some storms could have large hail greater than 1 inch in diameter, with occasional very large hail 2 inches or greater in diameter. Strong winds being classified as winds at or greater than 60 miles per hour. There's a conditional threat for strong tornadoes tomorrow, which means that there's a possibility of it. The conditions will be there in the environment. We're just not sure if storms are going to have the proper structures for it. So high uncertainty in terms of strength of storms, in terms of tornado potential tomorrow. However, you still need to keep your guard up. We'll probably have a video out tomorrow regarding this as well, and we'll have more details then. Expect storms throughout the day, with the first severe storms around 4 p.m., and the greatest threat to the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex will be around 6 to 9 p.m. and could perhaps linger a bit longer than that depending on what happens, although severe storms could begin anywhere between that 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. window in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, again due to that conditional tornado threat based on whether we're going to have storms firing ahead of the line tomorrow. Expect storms to die down around 2 a.m. around places like Vicksburg, Alexandria, and Port Arthur. As we talk about the official forecast here, again, here's the wind threat, level 3 out of 5 for Dallas-Fort Worth and Waco, Texas. This is where, in that red region, you can expect numerous storms with strong winds. I wouldn't be shocked if nearly the entirety of that region is in a severe thunderstorm warning tomorrow at some point for strong winds. Then around that, in the yellow region, we have a slight risk of strong winds occurring, so scattered coverage there. Many areas will get severe storms tomorrow there for strong winds, but it won't be the entirety of the region like I expect we'll get in the enhanced risk. And then finally, in the marginal risk, that includes Oklahoma City, Norman, Oklahoma, south of Little Rock, Alexandria, and Lake Charles in Louisiana, Houston, Texas there as well. But that marginal risk, very isolated but non-zero threats for strong winds. When it comes to large hail in the hatched region, that's where we could see very large hail that's 2 inches in diameter or greater. If you're in the yellow region, then scattered large hail is expected. That's 1 inch in diameter or greater, with isolated large hail being a possibility, although relatively low in coverage in our marginal risk in the brown there. Finally, when it comes to tornadoes, this risk is pretty much focused on the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, and it's stretched out there, nearly including Abilene. But again, there, the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex needing to watch out for the possibility of tornadoes tomorrow. And again, a uncertain threat, but definitely a threat of stronger tornadoes tomorrow. Does that mean you will get stronger tornadoes? No. Does it mean it's possible? Yes. We'll just have to see. Currently a level 2 out of 5 in place for tornadoes there, so that's an isolated few tornadoes in the brown, and then maybe a tornado, maybe 2 in the green there. So not expecting too many tornadoes. It's just a matter of how strong they'll be, and we don't know. They could be pretty weak, but the conditions are there for a stronger tornado or 2. So we'll keep an eye on that with time, and we'll keep you up to date as time goes on with that. And again, we'll probably have another video out tomorrow regarding this topic. Let's take you through this weather model. This is what the radar could look like. You'll see that arc of storms there in Oklahoma continuing to move throughout the day. This will likely bring isolated to scattered severe thunderstorms before, again, around 3 to 4 p.m. we start to see storms really fire up. And you'll see there on the northern side of our enhanced risk there throughout the day up until around sunset. That's when we're going to expect that tornado threat to be possible before these do congeal into a line. And this line is going to really bring quite the wind threat with it. I'm not expecting the winds to be super strong, but I am expecting them to be widespread. So widespread wind gusts of 60 miles per hour or greater are a real possibility with this as it moves through. And again, as we take you through it again, you'll notice those storms bubbling up ahead of what's going to be that line later. That's where our conditional threat is, and then you'll see there those cells along this line that do congeal into a line. And when they do congeal into a line, our large hail and tornado threat goes down some, our wind threat goes up. But that's going to be, again, through the afternoon, evening, overnight hours in Texas, stretching into Louisiana. As we head into the Florida forecast here for tomorrow, this one's going to be a bit less specific. It's not anywhere near as big of a threat for severe storms, but still scattered severe storms possible tomorrow and a slight risk. Thunderstorms will be possible in this risk region from around the 5 to 10 p.m. time frame, with strong winds of 60 miles per hour and large hail of 1 inch or greater in diameter being a possibility. As we take a look at weather models, it's rather clear here early in the day, not too many storms, and then those storms are really going to start to fire up here in the mid to late afternoon. You can see there, here it is, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Eastern, we start to see those storms fire up. And just for clarification, I'm talking in Eastern time in Florida, Central time in Texas. And here we go, those storms do die down by the time we get into the overnight hours after sunset. Let's talk about the forecast here 3 days out. Wouldn't be shocked to see a slight risk introduction somewhere within this region at some point later, but for now, not the case. Marginal risk stretching from around Lake Charles to Birmingham to Mobile. Again, it's a marginal risk for strong to severe storms, with these storms likely being isolated in coverage throughout the day on Thursday, strong winds and large hail being the primary concerns. Most areas within the risk will not get severe weather. However, a few areas likely will, and I wouldn't be shocked to see a slight risk upgrade once confidence increases on the areas where that focus potential will be. But again, if you're within this marginal risk, no need to panic, no need to freak out, no need to think the world's ending or anything. And that's the case for all these risks that we've been talking about. But especially for this, just remain weather aware, keep an eye on the sky, but odds are you're not actually going to get a severe thunderstorm. Still, though, make sure you have a plan in place just in case. Well, what can you do here in a severe weather environment? Well, if you're a few days out, for example, if you have a severe weather event coming up on Thursday, make sure that your plan's in place. Make sure that you have a communication plan. Just make sure you have a plan. It's not looking like a big day, but still non-zero threat, so make sure you're prepared. When it comes to the day before, if you're in Dallas-Fort Worth, for example, make sure that you have ways to receive weather alerts, whether that be a NOAA weather radio or your phone. And WEA stands for Wireless Emergency Alerts, and make sure that your shelter is accessible in case you're going to need it. And on the day of, so today, if you're in the state of Texas there, within that slight risk, make sure that you are vigilant and know the difference between a weather watch and a warning. Watch means it's possible, warning means it's imminent. Make sure to remind your family of your communication plan, know how to get to shelter, and again, have multiple ways to get weather alerts. Severe weather can escalate quickly, so again, have multiple ways to get weather alerts today, tomorrow, and Thursday if you're within a severe weather risk. Know where your shelter place is, and if an underground shelter isn't available for a tornado, get into an interior hall away from windows. In more detail here with tornadoes and road safety, I want to go over this because most of you in the Midwest know what to do if you're at home. But if you're in a tornado warning and you're in your car, get to a sturdy place, whether that's a gas station, a city hall, your house, anything. Anything anywhere near you that is sturdy. So not a mobile home, not a rundown shack, not something like that. Make sure it's a sturdy building. Make sure that you go to their designated tornado shelter, but you don't want to be in your car. You don't want to be on the road. You want to be seeking refuge in a sturdy building. And if you cannot find a sturdy building, your best bet is to avoid overpasses, avoid obstructions, and there's some debate about this. Some people say stay in your vehicle and crouch. However, I don't think that's a good idea. I think the best idea is get out of your vehicle, get into a low-lying ditch. While vehicles are going to be a source of protection from debris on the outside, if that tornado lofts up the vehicle, there's a possibility that that vehicle becomes the death trap instead of protecting you from the death trap. When it comes to flooding concerns, we do have a slight risk for excessive rainfall today, including Oklahoma City, stretching up near Denver, Colorado. A slight risk tomorrow, including Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Arkansas, and the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. And a marginal risk for flash flooding on Thursday, including Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, Nashville, Tennessee, places like that. And that is something to note for sure. And when we talk about that flooding risk there, here is the total rain here over the next 3 days up until 8 a.m. Eastern Time at 7 a.m. Central Time on Friday. Some areas in Oklahoma expected to get over 4 inches of rain over the next 3 days, with widespread regions there in the purple getting over an inch. So lots of rain expected to fall over the next few days with this more active pattern, so make sure that you have a flooding plan as well, as flash flooding can escalate quickly. Again, multiple ways to get weather alerts for this. Make sure that you get to higher ground if in a flash flood warning, and never enter floodwaters in a vehicle or on foot. You want to stay out of those. You don't know how fast they're moving. It doesn't take much to sweep you or your vehicle. When it comes to fire weather, we also have a concern for that as well. A critical risk in place today with the possibility of dry thunderstorms to the north there along the Mexico-United States border, stretching from Texas all the way to Arizona. Strong winds coupled with low humidity and warm temperatures warrant a critical delineation for fire weather risk today. And again, if you're within that critical risk, what you want to do is you want to avoid throwing out cigarette butts. You want to make sure that you're not grilling. You want to make sure that you're not doing anything outdoors that could cause a fire. And if you're in that isolated dry thunderstorm section, that means that fires could be triggered by thunderstorms without much rain. So the trigger could be non-human in that region. So again, make sure that you have your plans ready for that. We'll talk about that shortly. An elevated risk tomorrow. The conditions are relatively unfavorable, but there will be a brief period tomorrow afternoon where breezy winds coupled with drier air will pose a low but non-zero fire weather concern. Make sure that you do have a way to get weather alerts for fires. Make sure that you can listen to your local officials and ensure that you have a plan for wildfire evacuation. With that being said, thank you so much for watching as we take you through the severe weather flooding and fire weather threats over the next few days. We do hope that the video was informative and enjoyable to watch. If you have any feedback, you can leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, you can hit the like button. And if you want to see more content like this and make sure you don't miss it, you can hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to turn on notifications. And finally, if you want to talk to me or anyone else on the Advective Weather team, you can join our Discord server, link in the description below, in order to get more information from us, ask us questions, things like that, have a good conversation. Thank you guys again for watching, and we hope to see you tomorrow for our video again on the severe weather threat.